Okay. Good Tovach, Shavua Tov. I would love to make a l'chaim right now. Yeah. Especially after being in the heat. You know, l'chaim definitely beats the heat. So, today is Shivas HaB'Tammuz, a fast day. It begins a 3-week period. The commemorating, of course, the destruction of the Holy Temple that takes place 3 weeks from now in Tisha B'Av, a time of mourning, a time, more importantly, to beseech and to do everything that we can to bring the final redemption. Although it's been 2,000 years, it's still fresh, you know, for the Jewish heart and the Jewish soul. And the after effects are real. What are the after effects? We're in exile, right? We don't have the Holy Temple, which is ultimately, amongst many other things, the ultimate of it is that it's God's dwelling place on earth, that from there radiated into the rest of the world. So, of course, you know, in the year 69, when the second Holy Temple was destroyed, devastating to lose that and to go into exile on top of that. But so where do we get the strength today? There was a place that you were able to go to, and therefore a mitzvah 3 times a year, aliyah, to go up to Jerusalem. So today, where is that that divine lighthouse that should inspire us? Let's share over here. So how do we maintain our spiritual outlook in a world that lacks such a divine lighthouse? How can we remain strong, proud of our Jewish identity without a home base? Now, although we have the land of Israel today, but this is not the land of Israel that we were talking about, which means the divine presence in the Holy Temple. As a matter of fact, going on Temple Mount can cause a lot of problems and a lot of friction and a lot of issues and problems. Even though halachically there is an issue of going on Temple Mount today, because of the holiness, it still remains there. But when we speak about a home base, we mean the Holy Temple. So with that in mind, we proceed. In these 3 weeks, every 3 coming up Shabbos, we will read a Haftorah that is special, one that is speaking about the 3-week period that we're in. As the Torah describes, we generally read a Haftorah that relates to the theme of the Torah portion until the 3 weeks before Tisha B'Av. At that point, the Haftorah follows the time of year. 3 readings recount the misfortune of the temple's destruction. And then afterwards, we have 3 readings of comfort the nation from tragedy, and 2 readings discuss repentance before the high holidays. We read a selection from Jeremiah for Parshas Pinchas this Shabbos. We're going to read from Jeremiah, Yirmiyahu. And the other for Parshas Matos, and this year double Parsha Maseh. And for Parshas Devarim, we read from Isaiah. So the first Haftorah is of the what is called, if you see over here, It's called Tlosa in Aramaic. Oops. Sorry. It's called in Aramaic Tlosa de Paranusa, meaning the three misfortunes, readings of misfortune. And then we have the Sheva de Nechemta, 7 of the word Nechama, meaning comfort. Like Nichum Avelim, which means comforting the mourner, someone who's lost somebody. So we have now the 3 of misfortune, which God instructs Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah, to rebuke the people and inspire them to do tshuva, to do penitence, and to warn them of the calamity that might befall them of their evil ways, which ultimately does with the destruction of the first holy temple, right? So, but as we're going to read from the book of Jeremiah, from the very beginning, which opens with an introduction to Jeremiah's first prophecy. So let's go to text number 2 from this week's Haftorah. And the word of Jeremiah, the son of Hilkiah, of the priests who were I got to read it in Hebrew. Read it in Anasais be'eretz Binyamin, in the land of Binyamin. The English is hard for me. The Hebrew is much easier. To whom the word of God came in the days of Yeshayahu, son of Ammon, king of Yehudah, in the 13th year of his reign. And it was in days of Yokaham, son of Yeshayahu, king of Yehudah, until the end of the 11 years of Zedekiah, son of Yeshayahu, king of Judah, until the exile of Jerusalem in the 5th month, meaning the month of Av. And the word came to me, saying, to Jeremiah, when I had not yet formed you in the womb, I knew you. And when you had not yet emerged from the womb, I had appointed you a prophet to the nations. I made you. And I said, alas, O Lord, God, behold, I know not to speak, for I am but a youth. And God said to me, say not, I am but a youth, for wherever I send you, you shall go, and whatever I command you, you shall speak. Fear them not, for I am with you, save you, says God. So this is the beginning of the book, and God is informing Yirmiyahu of his destiny. What is that? He's going to be a prophet. But he rejects it, and he says, I'm too young. I'm inexperienced, right? So this is the beginning of the Haftorah. Now, before we go on any further, we need to deal with a few questions over here that seem to be pretty obvious. Firstly, why are these verses relevant to our purpose over here? What did the Torah explain to us previously? What is the reason of reading of the Haftorah? Because it's speaking about the misfortune of the Jewish people and about the tshuva, the penitence that they need to do in order to abrogate the misfortune. So to teach us about the particular times. What has this got to do with anything? The fact that he is questioning God about being a prophet, that he is too young, he's inexperienced. So it's a nice story, But why is that necessary for us to read this part when it doesn't have anything to do with the particular issue at hand? We're at the difficult times of misfortune, and we're reading about the misfortune, not about how he became the prophet, that now he would be the one to try to bring the Jews to tshuva. So that's our first question we need to understand. And the second question is, what do the words when you had not yet emerged from the womb mean? And if it would have been when he emerged from the womb, I knew you. But why specifically when you were still in the womb? In other words, I made you a prophet already in the womb. And if it wasn't in the womb, like there's something specific over here we need to understand. And also with the words, when I had not yet formed you in the womb, I knew you. What does that mean exactly? What kind of knowledge is God referring to? Does it mean he knew him? Okay. So what we're going to focus in on right now to find some clarity over here is understanding the time period in question, which is gestation in the fetus. That's what we're going to focus in on right now. When are the body, we are a body and soul, right? Now the body is much more tangible for us, much more real for us, but we all know that we have a soul, right? But the question is, when does the soul exactly enter the body? This is debated in the Talmud, right? This is a debate that we're going to see. So let us take from the Talmud in Nida. It says the following: Rabbi Simloi taught a fetus in its mother's womb is comparable to a folded notebook. It rests with its hands on the two sides of its head, its arms on the two knees, its heels on its two buttocks, and its head rests between its knees. Its mouth is closed, and its umbilicus is open. It eats from what its mother eats, and it drinks from what its mother drinks. There are no days more blissful for a person than those days when they are a fetus in their mother's womb, as the verse states, if only I were as in the months of old, as in the days when God watched over me, as Job says. Which are the days that have months, but do not have years? You must say that these are the months of gestation. The fetus is then taught the entire Torah. So the fact that the fetus studies Torah, that itself is an indication of a soul, right? That must mean that there is a soul that the fetus has already in utero. Otherwise, who's studying the Torah? Just a piece of matter? No. There has to be a soul there. Okay. But this whole idea is, though, a matter of debate. Not so simple, right? It would be very simple, right? And then we'd see pro-life, meaning that if you kill a fetus, you've killed a life. We're not going to go off on that tangent at all, but what we're going to see that this whole issue is not so simple. Because we're going to see a dispute now. And the dispute is going to be in a discussion about the world to come, meaning Tchias HaMesim, the time of resurrection. When Mashiach comes, there's the first time period of Mashiach where everything remains the way the world is. Although there'll be no more wars and there will be no more, hunger. Even a fast day, you won't go hungry. But then there is the second stage, which is called Tchias HaMesim, resurrection of the dead, and that's this reference point that we're talking about over here. So at what point in life is this earned by the individual? So what we're going to see, the debate in this is contingent on the timing of the soul's entry into the body. Okay? So we have here, I just make sure there's clarity over here. Who is earning the world to come is contingent on when the soul enters the body. And hence we're going to see a debate as a result. So here we have the Talmud in Sanhedrin says it was taught that when does an infant enter the world to come? So Reb Chia and Reb Shimon bar Rebbe disagree. One said from when they are born. And the other said from when they speak. Ravina said from the moment of conception. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak said from circumcision. And Tanya taught in the name of Reb Meir from the moment the infant says Amen for the first time. Interesting. We have 5 opinions over here. 2 Jews, 3 opinions. Well, here we've got 5 opinions, right? So if you said the world to come is the era of resurrection of the dead in this reference. Sometimes the world to come, by the way, does mean Gan Eden, where our soul goes after 120 years. In this world, it depends. But it depends on the context of the discussion. Because both are, in a sense, the world to come, right? The true world to come is resurrection of the dead, because that is it at all doesn't exist now. As opposed to Gan Eden does exist, but it doesn't exist for me. And hopefully, I got another many decades left until that will happen, right? Meaning it's still a world to come to meet for me, but it's not a world to come in general because it still exists for others that are there right now. But in our reference point, this is what we're talking about, right? So we have an interesting question over here. They're saying who merits the world to come, and it's dependent on when the soul merges with the body, which seems to be a bit of an unusual debate, right? How do we understand this? Especially in light of what the Mishnah says. The Mishnah says, every Jew has a portion of the world to come. As it states, your people are all righteous, shall possess the land forever. They are a shoot that I planted, my handiwork to be glorified. So, according to this Mishnah, everyone's entitled to the share in the world to come. The era of resurrection brings together body and soul. They were that body and soul that was together during a lifetime. So it follows then that any opinion about when one earns their life to world to come, when the soul returns, is based on the underlying opinion about when the soul initially joins the body. So really then, it seems to be that the argument of who gets to come into the world to come is really based on one criteria. When does the soul enter the body for the first place? Which then kind of leaves us with a problem. The first Talmudic passage, we said, the Rebbe Simloi, that the fetus has a soul already, and therefore it's learning Torah. But this contradicts the piece of Talmud that we brought now, that indicates that there's a debate of when the soul arrives. And nobody's of the opinion that it is in utero. Everybody is saying at some point. whether it's at birth, whether it's at circumcision, right? Whether it's when the child talks. Some are of the opinion it's only after the child gets its PhD and leaves home. So it's an argument about when the soul enters in the first place, yes? So how do we answer this? Anybody? So when does the soul enter into the body? Nobody?
Isn't there something about 40 days?
Well, now you're bringing another.
I just think it's conception, at conception.
Wait a second. Wait a second. We're studying Talmud over here now, right? We have different opinions over here. So my question is, what's going on about different opinions? How do we understand that? So when does the soul, I wasn't asking what personal opinion was. Okay. I'm asking here, what's going on with the sages in the Talmud, right? But Reb Simloy says in utero. Others say different stages. How are we supposed to understand that? So what soul are we talking about, by the way, folks?
Would it be that the neshama enters at utero, and then as the fetus grows, or nefesh, one has to enter at utero, and then the other levels?
Oh, so very good, but I'm asking which soul. So Andrew answered in the chat.
The divine soul.
Yes. The godly soul we're talking about, the divine soul. First of all, we need to understand that. Because there is a soul that is the animating soul that gives just physical life, right? But we're talking about the godly soul. So the answer to the question is very simple. There isn't a debate here. It's all different stages. And the only distinction is that different stages are emphasizing a different stage in the entry of the divine soul into us. That's interesting. We thought, we're very one-dimensional people sometimes in our thinking, but we need to know that that's not the case. Let us take a look and understand further. The soul enters in stages. The fetus is endowed with a soul in the womb. But at this early stage, the body and soul aren't unified. In the words of the Rabbi, when the fetus is in the mother's womb, it has a godly soul, but that soul is not integrated with its body. Even the purely physical life force is not fully revealed and active. Hence, it is sustained by the food of the mother. True entrance of the soul into the body is when the body and soul become unified and integrated, such as one can see the soul affecting the body. So, even once a child is born, the effect of the godly soul is not immediately apparent. Rather, it is their animating soul, which is synonymous with the physical life force that drives their existence. Only once a baby boy is circumcised does the soul become truly connected with the body. The bris milah, God's commandment to circumcise, physically modifies the body, and as such furthers the connection of body and soul to another level. It's to a new stage. A girl is considered to have been circumcised from birth. So in summary, we have 3 stages of the body-soul connection. The fetus in the womb, birth of the baby, and the bris, when they become truly united. So the first stage that the Torah is being learned by the fetus, no question. It's a fetus, it's a soul in the fetus. But it's an early stage of the relationship between body and soul. It hasn't been completely developed. So that's the first stage. Then comes the Talmud, and they debate at what point is there a real fusion of body and soul that we can say that now, it's complete, and therefore this is a complete entity that now merits the world to come. Now, this question, although it sounds very theoretical, has ramifications in practical halacha. The Alter Rebbe, in the Shulchan Aruch, in the Code of Jewish Law, the Alter Rebbe not only wrote the Tanya, but he wrote also Code of Jewish Law. So he says the following: our sages caution in the Talmud about the spirit of impurity resting on the person's hands upon awakening, saying that it is not removed entirely until they washed 3 times alternatively. They also warn that before washing, one should not touch their eyes, ears, nose, or mouth. When one sleeps and the holy soul departs, the spirit of impurity takes hold of the body. When the soul returns to the body, the spirit of impurity departs from the entire body and remains only on the hands. For this reason, it became customary to be lenient with regard to washing the hands of younger children who have not reached an educational age with regard to Torah and mitzvahs. This is because the soul enters into the body in a real way when the boy reaches 13 years in one day, and a girl at 12 when she reaches 12. This is why at that time they are obligated by scriptural law to observe mitzvahs and are considered to be of punishable age. The entry of this holy soul begins at the age when the child begins training for Torah observance, as is obligated by the sages. An earlier phase of this entry begins the mitzvah of circumcision. Therefore, a person who is careful to wash the hands of an infant from the day of circumcision onward may rightfully be called holy. So, we wash our hands to remove the spirit of impurity that rests upon us when we go to sleep. So the custom is to teach children only when they become to the age of education, right? That's when they're, in other words, that they can appreciate and do it themselves even, right? 3 years old or 5 years old when you can start educating them. However, the soul enters by the bris, and there's a holiness there, right? So it is an extra holiness to start from that point onwards, even though the child doesn't appreciate, isn't aware. But because by the bris, for the girl when she's born, there is that godly soul that enters. Therefore, you want to start then if you want to increase in holiness. Obligation is when the child becomes 13, a boy becomes 13, a girl becomes 12. And in order, like all obligations that a child has, when they become adult, you train them beforehand. So you would train them beforehand in order that they come to it, not, girl becomes bas mitzvah and all of a sudden, hey, do this thing about washing negelwasser, not something that they were accustomed to. So you accustom them to that, right? So all of this now, we have different stages that we understand and appreciate, right? The idea of the soul that enters. So enters by birth, by bris even more so, and it's even more fully engaged and more fully accessible and revealed. Revealed is the key word over here at the age of 12 and 13, right? So we get that. And we understand that, when by circumcision, there's a mark made on the child of the entry of that godly soul, because now it leaves a physical marking on the physical body, because you're doing this as a mitzvah of God. So it is actually revealing, just as, the circumcision is actually revealing the foreskin, right? You push back, it's not only cutting, but it's also placing it back and revealing the foreskin, or not revealing the foreskin, removing the foreskin and revealing the crown. Sorry, Torah, the crown. So in that act, you're revealing the permanent effect of the godly soul on the body. But that's also limited, because the godly soul is still not the mainstay of the individual, because a child is mainly functioning by their animating animal soul, right? Doing things not from a godly perspective. But bar and bas mitzvah, why do we become obligated in mitzvahs? Is because now the godly soul is much more revealed. And now they have a capacity of using their mind to have more dominion over their heart. And even that's also stages till the age of 20. It's interesting how we see the soul, right? How it evolves, the godly soul, in its revelation. The essence of the core of it is always there, and in its revelation. But now let's go back to the soul before it emerges and reveals itself in the body, and through becoming mature. And now that you have access to that revealed soul by bar and bat mitzvah. But the soul before the child is born, what's the point? So you're going to say, we study Torah, right? That's the answer you gave. But that's also simple. Talmud tells us, once a child enters the world, an angel hits the child on its mouth and causes him or her to forget all of the Torah they learned. So you learned it all, and now you forgot it all. Very good. What's the point? We need to understand. All right. So what do we have over here? Before birth, person's best days, no worries or concerns. Afterwards, we're fraught with challenges in physical and spiritual. We're going to tie this all in with our original discussion. We are in a time of exile. The Haftorah is speaking about the challenges of a difficult time. And vis-a-vis the womb, those are like, messianic times. Everything's wonderful there. No worries. Everything's provided free of charge, even Torah study, right? By contrast, when we come out, all of a sudden, baby cries. It cries because it left utopia. And it comes to a place that's fraught with challenges, both in the physical, material sense, and in the spiritual. Not only that, but this world is not so conducive to spiritual growth. It's an unholy environment, a lot of distractions, especially when we're in exile. And even if we don't feel that we're missing something, that just shows us how much we're in exile. That just shows us how deep the exile is. With this now we can understand, we had an original question. In the Haftorah of Jeremiah, who was the prophet during the time of destruction of the Second Holy Temple and before, who was there to come and rebuke the Jews and to help and to make them, bring them to do tshuva. Our question was, but we read from the Haftorah from the beginning of the book of Jeremiah, which speaks about God choosing him as a prophet. And he saying, I'm inexperienced, I'm not ready for this, right? And we asked the question, what has that got to do with the issue at hand of the exile that we're experiencing, the challenges and the difficulties? Why is this part of the fact that he was chosen by God to be the prophet? Huh? We don't need to read about it. So the Rebbe says, because in these passages, it's giving us very vital and important information about what it means to struggle in a time of exile. Firstly, the name Yirmiyahu itself teaches us something. He was called Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah, because in his time, Jerusalem became the place of destruction. That's what the word Yirmiyah. In contrast to the prophet Isaiah, Jeremiah lived in a time of concealment and rejection by God. Even his very name. Yirmiyahu also contains the word mar, which means bitter. This symbolizes a period of time that he experienced. So all in all, Yirmiyahu lived in a time of spiritual desolation, which shortly followed with the physical destruction and the ruin of the Holy Temple and the dispersion of the Jewish people into exile. And this is reflected now in the conversation that Yirmiyahu has with God. Let's go back to the conversation. He says, I'm unworthy. I can't be this prophet. God needs to convince him to uphold the task and see through the mission. Now, on a historical level, of course, we understand here's an individual who feels that he's not got the wherewithal. And God says, no, you do. So we need to, of course, understand it historically, but as in everything in Torah, Torah is a lesson, an eternal lesson. So it means it's speaking to us at this time. The time that when we face a struggle, when we feel inadequate, like Jeremiah, all of us are like that. We feel that at a certain point, I can't fulfill this mission. It's too great. So God, as he preempts Jeremiah, and he tells him, no, remember who you are. God's response, the answer to the struggles as well, right? Remember who you are. And who is that? And the word of God came to me saying, when I had not yet formed you in the womb, I knew you. And when you had not yet emerged from the womb, I had appointed you a prophet to the nations. I made you. The key to unlocking Jeremiah's struggle and the key to unlocking our own struggles is to recognize that not only we contain a soul, but the soul is the primary thing that we are. And that soul has been here a long time. Before we came into struggle, we were already given this godly soul. So it predates our coming into this world and the challenges that we would have. We've been given all of this beforehand. As the Rabbi explains. With the words, before I had formed you in the womb, I knew you. God is telling Jeremiah, you have a holy soul, a literal share of God sourced in something far higher and greater than the lowest depths and concealment. You're bigger than you think. I know you, meaning I have connected to you. I have a piece of me in you. No matter how difficult the struggle is, before you were born, you were given all of this capability. You were empowered with a light of godliness that's a part of your reality. You forgot the Torah, but it's part of your DNA. You forgot the specific teachings. You forgot the Talmud, the Mishnah, the Tanya. Okay, you forgot that. But you didn't forget is that your soul is imbued with all of it. Not in a way that you're aware, but it's your very DNA. And therefore you're empowered not only with a piece of God in you, but the teachings of God that are part of your very DNA. That's why the soul is imbued in a person before birth. To tell you that no matter what the challenge we face, the soul reigns supreme. It was there before your challenge. It was already imbued with the power. It took time for it to surface. Birth, circumcision, 12 and 13, 20 years old, and so on. As it emerges with greater strength. But it was always there. And that's the idea of the studying of the Torah that we do. In utero, right? As the Rebbe says in the Sikha. The reason to teach the fetus all of the Torah is to illuminate with the divine light that inspires love and fear of God. Though transcendent, the Torah he or she has learned will serve to inspire the soul. Still, they must be made to forget the Torah so as to grant the person freedom of choice to choose over bad. Choose good over bad. But the soul is imparted deeply by this study, and through it gains the power to elevate the body in which it is integrated. This is inspired by the residue or the scar left by the Torah learning in the womb. Never references this idea. This is the meaning of when you had not yet emerged from the womb. I had appointed you. Not only were you imbued with the Holy Soul, but you were also sanctified already in the womb. You were prepared and empowered for your entrance into the world by studying the entire Torah. So what does that mean? What does this mean? That we've been empowered for the destiny that we need to engage in. His was to be a prophet. That was his destiny. And he was given the wherewithal. He's young. Okay. Inexperienced. But your soul was imbued with everything that it needs. And that's why we read this part, the beginning of Jeremiah in the Haftorah, is because we're in the 3 weeks and we need the empowerment. So back in the day, all there was a rebuke to do tshuva. But now as we get closer to Mashiach, we learn deeper understanding that rebuke is not rebuke for the bad that you did, but rebuke is an empowerment for the greatness that you really are. So it's a positive, so to speak, you can rebuke somebody because of the bad things they do, or you can, or you can show them how great they are and what you can achieve and what you can become, and that you can transcend whatever issue you have, whatever challenge that you have. And this was all given to you in utero. That's the key, right? That we were all given that divine soul. So we were given all of the capability then. Again, not all of it emerged. Obviously, it doesn't emerge then. It doesn't emerge all at birth either. But it's unpacked, which is amazing. We unpack our divine soul as we mature and we grow. And even now we do that. Yes, there are specific stages, but those stages don't end. What does that mean? In other words, the power that we've been given is there, but to unpack it is something that we need to do. So it's not just, it's the potential is there, but the realization is something that we need to give ourselves over to. And this is the idea of the exile, is that the darkness was preceded by the light of the soul already in utero, which is an amazing idea. That we've been given all of that light, the light of Torah in utero. The teachings we forgot. We forgot it, but it was imbued in our very DNA that we have access to it. We have to, just like we forgot it, we have to now relearn it. What you're doing right now is just relearning what you already learned. Right? Relearning what you already learned. And that's why when we learn Torah or when we do a mitzvah, so often it feels like deja vu. Or if not deja vu, at least it feels that there's a certain comfort zone. There's a certain, like it fits. It's me. It's my, it's not something, it's not foreign. It's not foreign. Which is an amazing, beautiful idea. How come it's not foreign? Because in utero we learned it, and now we just have to reveal it step by step. And we reveal more and more of our godly soul. And ultimately we'll reveal it in such a way that it will become our true reality. And that will be when we do it and we refine ourselves in such a way, and each and every one of us, and then bring the ultimate redemption. Well, the entire world will be refined, and then we will transform these days of affliction, these days of darkness, into the ultimate light of Mashiach now. Any questions? L'chaim. L'chaim, l'chaim v'bracha. Yeah. All right. So the amazing thing is, it's all in us. It's all a part of us. We don't have to go anywhere else, right? I mean, yes, we got to learn Torah because then it's just reminding me of that piece inside of me. It just becomes more revealed, and that's why we're whole, we're complete, we're worthy, because we were that way in utero. And, we become more and more that each and every day that, we reveal more of our godly soul. All right, folks.
Is that how come I wasn't observant growing up, but I always felt.
Sorry, you're cracking up a bit.
I always felt growing up, even though I wasn't observant, spiritually connected to the Torah, that I always wanted to, study Torah. I mean, is that from what was left from the godly soul? At the imprint that was left, even though I don't remember it?
It's part of the DNA, 100%. Actually, what's interesting, I've told the story before, but just to bring out this idea of the DNAs, it's not just Torah, but it's mitzvahs too. So I've told it many times, but it's worthy of telling again. I used to, my wife and I used to be on campus, McGill University, running the Chabad house. And so when it came, holiday time, we would go on campus to bring a holiday celebration to the students. So Rosh Hashanah, Montreal is a very traditional city, much more than any American city, or for that matter, probably much more traditional than any other city in North America. That's by far. There's one Reform temple, and I think 2 conservative, right? The rest are either they're Orthodox, modern Orthodox, and whatever. Even the people might not be Orthodox, but that's what their affiliation is. Just to give you an idea. In any case, so Rosh Hashanah, we'd go on campus looking for Jews and to blow shofar for them. And we went into the cafeteria. I got up on the chair and announced, Happy New Year, and it's Rosh Hashanah, blew the shofar for everybody, and everybody got up and gave us a clapping ovation. We knew that they weren't Jewish. Sukkot, though, there were a lot of students on campus. Rosh Hashanah Jews in Montreal, they're not in camp, they're not in school, whether they're in synagogue or not, but they're with their family eating a Rosh Hashanah meal, but Sukkot students were on campus. So I would get between the McLennan Library and the Red Path Library, the 2 libraries where there was a big route between the students going between classes. And we would stand there, my wife and I, and actually my kids, they're little at the time. We're talking, they're 10, 8, 6, 12, 10, 8, 6, something like that, right? And younger. And they would go up to students and say, Chag Sameach, come do the mitzvah of Lulav and Esrog. And, so a girl would come and she would take Lulav and Esrog, and her heart would melt making the bracha. Oh, I haven't done this since I was in high school. And they were like, they felt connected, and they make a bracha. And then you would see a student far off, 30 feet away or 50 feet away, and they're not making eye contact with you. You knew they were Jewish. And they're making a beeline. My kids are running after them. Chag Sameach, come do the mitzvah. Says, well, I don't have time. I've got to go to class. So sometimes we were with a non-Jewish friend that says, well, what are you lying to the kid? You don't have class for 15 minutes. And they were embarrassed to do a mitzvah. Why were they embarrassed? The non-Jew wasn't embarrassed, but the Jew was embarrassed, right? And the Jew who embraced and did the mitzvah are really both. The embarrassed one and the one who embraced it are really one and the same Jew. It's part of the DNA. It's part of who I am and my soul. It's a reflection of me. So for some Jews, that reflection is heartwarming and they want to embrace it. I want to do them. Others, they've repressed it and they want to repress it, and it's not a reflection that they want. But in the end, it's still a reflection of them. For the non-Jew who didn't feel it and wasn't threatened by it, the Jew was threatened, because it is a reflection of them. Why is it a reflection of them? Because the angel taught us Torah, it not just taught us Torah, but the mitzvahs of Torah, right? So it becomes a part of the DNA of the makeup of our neshama. But that, is there. It needs to be unpacked. So it's unpacked by a bris, literally by removing the foreskin, by moving back and the crown being revealed, right? It's revealed more by bas mitzvah and bar mitzvah. It's revealed even more so, as we develop further. We unpack it. Some of it's undone naturally by the maturity, and some of it is done because, and that's why bar and bas mitzvah, at that point, now what does it mean you're an adult? Well, you have a responsibility to reveal more of your godly nature. That's the responsibility. Why? Because it's there. Till now, it was done in spite of you, so to speak, right? The bris, the maturity. Now it's got to be because of you. But the point of it is, we've got it in us. We've got that piece of God in us. We have it. We just have to access it and reveal it. And we can, and we do. As proof, we're here. And that's why, Andrew, you just have that affinity. So the smart one embraces it. If it's a reflection of me, let me embrace it rather than run away from it or repress it. Davida, you have a question?
Oh, yes, Rabbi. I was just wondering, when Mashiach comes and we get the aha moment, is that when we remember everything?
Well, you're remembering now, not just then. I mean, you're remembering now, but then it'll be that's a good. Then it's even more than remembering it. You're kind of living it, right? You're living it because it's real. Right now we're learning, about the soul. It's still abstract, but then the soul won't be so abstract. Now the physical body and the desire. I'm hungry right now. Boy, if I would have just a drink of water, I would be, dive into Menachem Hillel's a lake over there and open up my mouth. That would be just extremely refreshing and rejuvenating. We're physical beings, and the whole idea here, what are we unpacking? What's being unpacked, and what are we to unpack is our divine nature, our divine soul. So, and that's that's an effort, but we've got it within us, and we have all of that capacity, empowerment given to us. Times of Mashiach, it'll be the other way around. The physical reality is very real for us. Then the spiritual reality of our neshama will be so emphatic, so clear, so real. Like moments on Yom Kippur, maybe we have that, right? Where we're feeling the fast is not holding us back. On the contrary, we're rejuvenated, right? We feel a sense of rejuvenation. We feel a sense of being uplifted, a sense of cleansing. And we have other moments probably where we have that too. When we're learning, right? But then, yes, it'll be much more absolute. All right, folks. Okay. Got to prepare for TRC. Looking forward. All right. Good Tavach, Shavua Tov. We should we will transform these days from days of mourning to days of gladness, to days of joy, complete joy. By the way, it doesn't mean we shouldn't have joy now. Of course, we have to have joy in the ways through Torah study we have joy. In ways that we can have joy. So you can't have it, in other manners, but we can and we must. At the same time, there's a sense of a loss. Good Tavach.
Thanks for the class.
Thank you, folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Bye.
Hope everybody.
Bye-bye.